Welcome to Selling in the Motor Trade, in association with Automotive Management and SMCotraining. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips, and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. And firstly, I want to say thank you for taking the time to tune in. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. It is my great pleasure today to talk to Sean V. Bradley. Now, I've got to tell you, the very first time I met Sean, he was at the National Automotive Dealers Association. Now, guys, you know, listen to this, I love that conference. I think 22 times I've been to it now. But there was this young guy come on stage, and he was different to everyone else. I mean, don't take it wrong. I've seen the Joe Verdes of the world. I've seen Cardone up there. Lots of great speakers. But this guy had some energy and was talking about the real world stuff. He was talking about video search engine optimization. He was talking about things that actually worked in the real world, and he gave examples of dealers he's actually working with. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Sean along. Sean, say thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Listen, it's an honor being here, and I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to kind of share some of my experience over the last 22 years in the automotive industry. And again, let's rock. Okay, so
perfect. Hey, Sean, just so people get to know you to start with, we have what we call a quick fire round, okay? Because some of the people in Europe might not know who you are yet, but tell me, what's better for you, sir, a beach holiday or city break?
Definitely city break.
City, right? Any city in particular?
100%. Two cities I love is I'm from New York and I travel the world. New York City is the center of the universe in my world. So like New York City. Yep. Second city I'd say is Moscow, Russia. I've done a lot of business in Moscow, and I think it's a gorgeous city.
See, I wasn't going to Moscow actually, but you got me on that one. So are you more an Italian meal or a Chinese?
Italian, definitely. I'm half Sicilian. So.
You have to be there. Italian all day long. Are you a nice cold beer, glass of red wine, or neither?
Probably neither.
Okay, cool. A really good book or sit down with a film? What would you prefer?
I'd say it has to be on the mood. Sometimes I love just the pace and the quiet of a book, but I do love my movies.
Good. And are you more of an iPhone person or Android?
100% iPhone all day one.
Oh, well, that's 100%. Okay. And are you an early bird or a night owl?
I am recently an early bird. Most of my life I've been a night owl, but probably in the last 90 days, about 120 days, I've been super early and doing a morning show on Clubhouse.
Ah, very good. So that's why. Other than that, normally a night owl.
Yes.
Brilliant. Listen, Sean, thank you very much for that. But listen, we want to ask our guests how they started in the motor trade. And I understand that your start in life wasn't probably the easiest. It was a little bit tough. I hope you don't mind me saying it that way. But can you tell the listeners, the viewers, about how you started in the motor trade?
Yeah. Okay. So to make you guys understand how and why I say what I say about automotive, I got to take a step a little bit back into my life. I grew up very unique to most people on this planet. You know, I grew up in New York City in violence, poverty, neglect. It was pretty bad. My stepdad used to torture me and my mother. She used to shoot my mother up with heroin, chain her to the bed, crazy stuff like that. Police had to extract us out. I got involved in a lot of crazy stuff as a kid, because I was angry and I was the environment that I was in. I basically was in a boys' home from 12 to 15 years old. And I just got involved with the wrong people, got involved in gang stuff, like real serious New York City gang life. I wind up, it was ironic because this is in Europe and in the UK, I used to run VIP parties for underground nightclubs like techno clubs in New York City, and we were partnered with clubs in London like Ministry of Sound. And I used to run very serious parties, and during this time I caught a federal case because of the nightclubs. It was the largest case in United States history for nightclubs. So I wound up at 18 years old catching the case. I pled guilty at 19, and from 19 to 22, I was in federal prison. So by the time I was 22 years old, I lost 6 years of my life, 3 years in a boys' home and 3 years in federal prison. So I didn't have many options. I was at Rider University in my freshman year when I caught my case. I was a Russian major. So now I'm $50,000 in debt. I'm an ex-gang member, ex-convict, and I had a lot of rules being on federal supervised release. And so I couldn't do the only legal thing I knew how to do, which is be a promoter for nightclubs. So when I first came home, I was a waiter at a diner, and I sucked at it, so they fired me. So one of my friends said that I should sell cars. And here's the funny part. The ex-gang member, ex-convict was like, you know what? Why would I sell cars? They're scumbags. You know what I mean? Because in the United States, they had a negative connotation.
Oh yes, everywhere in the world, sir.
Okay, there you go. So that they're sleazy, and so the street kid was embarrassed to be a car salesman, but I did it for the one reason: they gave me a demo. I worked at a Mazda Chrysler dealership called Schwartz in Red Bank, New Jersey, and I had my first demo was a Mazda Millennia, and so that's how I got into the industry, is because I didn't have any other options and I didn't want to be a waiter because I sucked at it. So I jumped in car sales and I murdered it, not literally, but I crushed it. Salesman of the month the first year, salesman of the year the first year. And I not even in a full year, I came close to breaking 100 grand the first year. And then the second year I crushed over 100 grand on the floor.
Isn't it amazing? It still happens. We had a young guy that went through a recruitment session, and I'm sure you have those in the States as well. He got the job. He's all excited. He went home to his mother and said, "Hey, great, Mum, I got the job. I'm going to be a car salesperson." Hey, Sean, do you know she burst into tears and said, "My son's gone through university and he's now going to sell cars for a living." He never took the job because of the family pressure there. And you just think, this reputation's still there. Surely we got to get away from that now. But hey, it's still there. I love it how you said you're the ex-gang member and you still thought the car salespeople were the scums. It's mad, isn't it? So this separates the true dealers, though. Do you remember the first car you sold?
100% was a 1999 Mazda Miata. I'll never forget. It was a blue Mazda Miata.
What's a Miata? We don't have those in Europe. What's a Miata?
The Miatas, those are the two-door little sport convertibles. They look like almost
MX-5, we would call them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was an MX-5 Miata. That's exactly it. Correct. Okay. So that was my first car I sold.
Cool. Okay. Now listen, in selling cars, I'm going to ask you your greatest day in the business, and it might not be while you're still selling cars, but let's go back in time first. While you're still selling cars, was there any day that really stood out for you?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, it's still. Remember, I've been in the industry 22 years, and I still remember this. It's one of my proudest moments. I worked at a different Mazda dealership. So the second store I worked at, I broke 30 cars, and so there was me and the guy named Carter Neese. And there was 10 people on the floor, but us two, we were 30 car guys. I used to average over 30 cars a month on the floor, which is pretty big in the United States. Still is. But this guy was, really good. And there was a contest for a watch, a tag watch. The watch, I think, was like about $4 grand or $5 grand or something like that. It was
irrelevant.
Yeah, and I actually beat out Carter, and we would go back and forth, for the top spot. But not only did I get the top spot for that month, but I won the tag watch, and it wasn't just a cash bonus, because we always make cash bonus, but I got to wear.
Yes.
It was like a belt. It was an accomplishment that not only am I really badass, but I got this badass watch to prove it. So it was pretty cool.
That's what I'm saying. The watches are relevant. You got the watch to prove to everyone in the dealership. Hey, number one. That's what it's all about. It's amazing what motivates us as people. Now listen, this is a shameless plug for our sales fitness program. We have a program where we talk about in the first 90 days, we need to make sure we train people right. I think you've got a similar program. So listen, lots changed since 22 years when you started. Can I ask you, is there anything that's as relevant today, now, in the motor trade that you learnt in your first 3 months that you'd really still think is as relevant now?
Yeah. Almost all of it is still relevant. Before I answer that question, I want to digress. I created a video on YouTube called The Evolution of Automotive Sales, because I own a national video production company, among other companies. And when we put it together, I was floored because I found Ford OEM training footage from 1950. So I'm going to go back 40, I'm going to go back 50 years, what I mean, from when you're saying to the 90s, right? And it was crazy, from like the late 40s, early 50s. And some of the training video footage from back then is still relevant today. So let's go into it. First thing is, again, product knowledge.
Yeah.
That is imperative. A lot of times people still skip steps and they
Hmm.
try to, like, skip the OEM certification. So if you want to master car sales, you have to master, the product knowledge. The more that you understand the product inside and out, features and benefits, and you could present value, you're going to increase your closing ratio. First thing.
Yep.
Second thing is maximizing your time, because that is one of the missed massive opportunities in any type of sales, but especially car sales. And the reason why, again, in the United States, they make people do bell to bells from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is because they cannot get true production, in a 6 or 8 hour shift. So they make people work even more hours, which is really absurd. And so if people learn how to maximize their time, not be busy, but be effective and productive from the second they walk into the dealership to the time that they leave. Now, obviously, the road to the sale, every dealership has a road to the sale, and there's different, iterations of it. But having a process from the beginning, whether it is the road to the sale on the showroom floor, or it is the inbound phone up process, or it is the outbound follow up process, being able to have a beginning, middle, and end, a strategy, a procedure is going to be massively, powerful. Again, diversification. These are things that I learned, 22 years ago that is still relevant today, meaning that you can't just live off of fresh ups that are going to come into the dealership. So you need to maximize. And on my platform, because we both have platforms in Bradley Demand, we focus on the 8 ways to sell. And I knew this 20 years ago. I was taught this. You have walk-ins, B-backs.
But that's the thing, Sean. When you said they're waiting there from 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock, bell to bell, that's because they're just waiting on walk-ins and phone-ins.
Exactly.
That's the issue. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off there on the 8 ways, but they are just waiting on those two, I think. Sorry, go on with the 8 ways.
No, it's so funny. You're correct, on this, because NADA says in the United States that the average salesperson only sells 9.6 cars. The reason why the average salesperson only sells 9.6 cars is because they're only triggering on 2 to 3 out of the 8 ways. So you're spot on with that. Yeah, I would concur. So you have walk-ins, you have B-back, and when I started selling cars in 1999, in the middle of 1999, there was internet, but the internet back then there was no CRMs. What the manufacturers, I don't know how it was in the UK, but the manufacturers used to fax the internet leads from the OEM's website to the dealerships. So back then I had internet as well. So you have walk-in, you've got B-back, you've got internet, you've got phone ups, you've got prior customers / orphan owners,
Yep.
you got service conversions, you got referrals, and you got the lost auto prospecting. So there's 8 main ways. Anything you could think about falls in those 8 categories. So yeah, I think that a lot of the things that we were taught 22 years ago, and then the people before me, like the greats like Jackie B. Cooper, and people like that, from we talked about like Tom Stuker and Joe Verdi and all these people, Paul Cummings, Jim Ziegler, Grant Cardone's. These were the trainers before me. They were teaching the same thing. So I think a lot of it is definitely relevant, and more importantly than relevant, it's valuable to today.
Well, can I ask you, during that time when you started, right at the beginning, did anyone stand out as a mentor, a coach? Is someone that you really looked up to? You said, listen, I tell you what, Grant Cardone's program, I learned a lot from there. Or Zig Ziglar, one of these guys.
Yes, but it wouldn't be a traditional answer for car people. Okay, so the mentor that I had at first was I was lucky. I worked at Schwartz Chrysler Mazda, and the dealer principal, Jim and John Schwartz, they were brothers. They did all the training. Like, I wasn't even able to touch a fresh up for the first 2.5 weeks. Back then, I was watching all these videos. So yeah, I watched Paul Cummings, Tom Stuker videos, but I was more impressed with the dealer principal that took the time to walk me through stuff and kind of mentor me. But then I found my own mentors that were not physical, they were through books. On a marketing level, my mind is different. I think a little bit differently. And I was really, really attracted to a gentleman. I think he's one of the greatest marketers that ever lived, Seth Godin. You talk about the orange tie. I read the book Purple Cow from Seth Godin, which was a very inspirational book to me. And then the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People changed my life.
Brilliant
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm the only company in the entire automotive industry in the United States that's actually partnered with the Franklin Covey,
Wow.
organization.
Wow.
Yeah, me and my wife have been certified facilitators and trainers for both the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the 5 Choices to Extraordinary Productivity. And I actually had the honor of training with Dr. Covey in Detroit many years ago, obviously before he passed away. So my, I guess, rock star mentor would be
Yep.
Dr. Stephen Covey by far.
But see, that's the thing. You had a hunger and a desire to go and search these things out. Too many times we get people in the industry to start and say, what training's Audi going to do for me? What are they going to do? No, what training are you going to do for yourself? Treat it as your own business within a business, because it is your own business. Too many times you get, you know what, some of the people who are the greats in selling cars, they do treat it as their own business. They do go and search out and invest in themselves, invest in their knowledge.
I would concur. Let's hit on the first point. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing that differentiated me from anybody else I came in contact with is that because it's my nature. I mean, I used to sell bulletproof vests to crack dealers in Queens when I was a child. You know what I'm saying? In New York and Queens. I've been hustling, but I didn't have any
That's going to
real.
be tough objection handling. That's got to be real tough.
No, it's funny. I was creative with marketing. What I did is I used to buy Spectra vests off of U.S. Cavalry catalog, and I had one of my friends had a screen press, and we used to put logos of Batman and Superman on the bulletproof Kevlar and Spectra vests in the neighborhood. So my
Branding.
point being is that I was a go-getter, and so when I was in the automotive industry, I went out to Covey. I taught myself how to design websites. I taught myself search engine optimization. I put myself into web classes, SEO classes, certification. I put myself into Toastmasters. I put myself into the National Speakers Association, and I really drowned and immersed myself in education. But to your point, though, you said something, and I have the answer. Car sales is like your own business, but only here's the disclaimer: if you treat it like so. And here's the problem: most dealers only provide, if they even do this at all, the OEM certification and road to sale training. But I have to push back. Being an entrepreneur is way more than just the road to the sale and product knowledge. Dealers don't teach entrepreneurship to their salespeople. They say it's like your own business. Okay, but come on, if we're honest with ourselves, how many people actually teach business development or entrepreneurship to their staff? And so they don't. And if you're not providing that information to your team on marketing, advertising, branding, time management, time maximization, financing, accounting, there's a myriad of things that makes a business. And think about this: the majority of businesses go out of business within the first year. And so even if you have a real business with brick and mortar, most of them fail. So yeah, there's a big reason why our industry, I believe, is not more successful, is because we don't do what the real estate industry does. Why is it when you get your real estate license, you know that you are responsible with marketing, advertising, prospecting, and branding, not waiting for the magic up bus that too many people in the automotive industry do, my opinion.
No, it's so true. All we need to do is take a salesperson and say, hey, how many cars are you going to sell this year? What's the target? What's the average value of the cars you're going to sell? Just do a quick multiplication. You know what? It's going to be somewhere between 6 to 10 million. And I'd love to say, hey, listen, if you had your own business selling bulletproof vests, selling coffee, turning over 10 million a year, how professional would you run it? I mean, Sean, could you imagine going to your bank manager at your start of your financial year, selling coffee, and your bank manager said, hey, how much coffee are you going to sell? I don't know, just as much as I can. Your bank manager said, get the fuck out of here. I want to know your business plan. You'd actually make sure your staff knew why your coffee was better than Starbucks or Costa Coffee. You'd make sure your staff upsold every single time. You want to go large for an extra 30 cents? You'd make sure you'd pass your competition on the way to work, and they'd treat it as their business. So you've hit the nail on the head for me. It's that entrepreneurial. But you know what? If dealers aren't providing it, salespeople need to go and look for it themselves, don't they? They need to go out and find it.
1,000,000%. One of the things that we do is I have a video on demand training, tracking, testing, certification program called Bradley On Demand. It is the largest light speed library in any vertical in any country. I'm sitting on 6,500 training modules, over $6 million in content because of that exact reason. So one of the things that we teach is called the money mind map. So to your point, if a salesperson wants to, be successful in this industry, the first thing that I do and I say to them is, okay, why? What is it that you're here for? What are you looking to buy?
What's your why?
But it's not just an emotional why, it's a financial why. And here's why. Because car sales is a for-profit business. If people say to me that they're in car sales because they like working with people and they like this and like that, and I'm like, okay, that's great. But there's a lot of shit that you could do that's a lot less aggravating, that's easier to do. The reason why you should be in car sales is because you could make as much money as you can earn, period. It's one of the last things that you can do legally and not have a formal education or have much resources, just the sheer will and talent to be able to sell. And so, but there is a science to this. So the first thing I say is, okay, from the laws of attraction, in my next book I like is The Secret. I believe in the laws of attraction. I believe in vision boards. So I have my students basically create a physical vision board and they articulate it. Okay, I want to buy this, this, and this. Okay, how much does that cost? We write that down. Then I ask them what their monthly nut is. We have a reverse engineer calculator that they're able to identify their fixed costs, their situational costs, their living cost, and their investment. So bottom line is, how much money do they need and want to make in a month? So let's just play this around. So let's say you need $6,000 and you want an extra $2,000. So let's say you need and want $8,000. Next question is, that's great. That's $8,000, but how much do you need to gross with your tax liability and your payroll deducts to be able to net $8,000? So approximately, United States, if you want to walk away with $8,000, you're going to need $12,000. Okay, so it's simple. Okay, what do you need to do at a dealership to gross $12,000? That is answered by one variable we came up with, is ACPC. ACPC is your average compensation per copy, not your average commission. What I do is I say, take last month, last quarter, last year, add every dollar you made legally at the dealership from commissions, bonuses, spiffs, or OEM spins, manufacturer spins. So let's just say you add that all in and then divide it by how many cars you sold. National average in the United States is $400 per copy for non-Highline, and then it's about $500 a copy for a Highline. So simple math. If I need to gross $12,000, how many cars do I have to sell? It's not an emotional question, it's a math problem. Well, if I'm averaging $400 per copy, then I need to sell 30 cars. If I'm averaging $500 per copy, I need to sell 24 cars. So let's go to national average. So the next question is, great, if I need to sell 30 cars, where am I going to get my cars from? Like we just said before, most people live off the magic up bus and they do a piss poor job of diversifying. So what I do is I reverse engineer. I say, okay, where am I gonna get my cars from? So I go to my 8 ways: walk-in, be-back, internet, phone, prior customers, referrals, service conversions, and the lost art of prospecting. And then I basically identify how am I gonna get from each category. Now, once I put that in my sheet or my software, I can do it on an Excel sheet, free. It basically said, it goes in. So let's say it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, and I add it up to 30. It helps me reverse engineer that I'm able to see on the first day of the month, very important field intelligence. I know that I want to make $12,000 this month gross so I can net 8. And to be able to do that, I need to sell 30 cars. And I need to know where am I getting my cars from. And once I know where I get my car from, then I need to know what are my activities I need to do per day, per week, per month. Meaning, from walk-ins, how many ups do I got to take? If it's inbound phone ups, how many phone ups I got to take? I have to have a plan with clinical precision of what to do, when to do it, how to do it, so I could math back into my number. And that's what works for me. And that has to do with having a solid plan. And how do you get that? By being educated.
See, I love that. Frank Betker was one of the books, Betcher, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. And we all have these books that we listen to early on, or I have to listen to them sitting in the car driving all the time. And it's exactly that. Work out how much each stage in the process is worth to you. I think it's Joe Verde says, come to work to work. Don't come to work to wait. I love that. That business plan is just what every salesperson, listen to this, they need to just make sure they do it. But you know what? The good ones will, and they'll understand that. So listen, I have to ask the question: how does someone go from selling cars to doing what we do? They decide to hold on. I want to get in the world of sales training. What made the leap for you? Was there one particular day you said, "Hey, I'm going to go and do that"?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Not one particular day. It was building up in its exasperation because there's so much fuckery in our industry and so much stupidity. And that's what it is that you know this.
I love that word. I love that word.
It's so true because it was so frustrating that I'm trying to do something successful for these stores, and the DP, the dealer principal, or the GM doesn't listen to you because you're young or you're a manager, but then they're going to listen to some stupid trainer or consultant from the manufacturer or somebody that owns a training company. And so I got tired of trying to tell people how to do stuff the right way or what we could even do, not following the norm, but being even more progressive and being more strategic. So I got exasperated with the bullshit of stupid people, to be honest with you. And I said, you know what, I was making $160,000 as a BDC director in 2003 at Cherry Hill Nissan. Cherry Hill Nissan was the #1 Nissan dealership in the Northeast region of the United States. When I left, I built a department from scratch. Before I got there, they're doing 25 units a month, and this is in 2003. Okay. And within the first year, we crushed it over 110 units a month out of my department. So I figured if I'm making $160,000 working as a manager at a Nissan dealership, shit, if I start my own company, I should be able to at least break even and make the same money. And even if I didn't, my rationale in myself is if I made, at least 100 grand, but I work for myself, I have my own hours and I'm my own boss, I'm not gonna, and I'm building into me, that I could go into it. And so that's the main reason why. I was just tired of the stupid shit and I just started my own company.
Fair enough. Then it's always amazing when you start your own company there. We think, hold on, we're going to get time there. But actually, that goes out the window because when you're so passionate about what you do, I bet you're working just as long, but working for yourself, not someone else. It always asks the question, why do people start? What's the motivation? Now, let's go back to the first time I met you. We all know the customer's never been more informed than they ever have in the past. Online sales were already happening, but the pandemic, it's just sped things up really, hasn't it? And the first time I met you, it was at a NADA conference, National Automotive Dealers Association. It would have been Vegas or one of those places there. And you typed in, I think it was a Toyota Corolla. And if I remember this correctly, it was something like Torrance. And I want you to take the story from there because it shocked me where actually the local Toyota dealer didn't pop up and you went, that's video search engine optimization. Can you just run through that? And I want to see how relevant is that still in 2021?
Yeah, it is. Well, first of all, thank you for remembering. I was the first person in the United States that's been officially credited for bringing video search engine optimization to the entire automotive industry. Back in 2006, that's a long time ago. That's 15
Is that when it was?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wrote the first article in Digital Dealer magazine in 2006 on video search engine optimization. No, that NADA was probably like 2008 or something like that.
Okay.
I wrote the first article on video search, and that's how I got my book deal with Wiley Publishing on Googleopoly, was video search. So what video search is, it's a strategy on how to actually optimize videos, like how somebody would optimize a website. They can actually optimize videos. So your question is, how does that work? So it's really crazy. My example was if you went to Google and typed in Toyota Corolla Torrance, what would show up on the first page of Google, I remember this example, was
the example Honda, then. Okay.
Yeah, it was my Honda. You got it. Was my Honda client. Okay. And basically I remember Scott Robinson Honda. And what it was is I had the manager at Scott Robinson Honda shoot a video, and it said something like this: hey folks, I know that you're looking for the Toyota Corolla. You should be looking at a Honda Civic. A Honda is a better vehicle. Don't take my word for it. IntelliChoice said it was. That's the exact script that I wrote for that. And what happened is, try to imagine psychology. You go to Google and you type in Toyota Corolla Torrance, and then those three words. And then on the first page of Google, there was a video of not the manufacturer, not of Toyota, not even of Toyota's competitor, Honda manufacturer, but of a Honda dealership. So we used a Honda dealership to conquest Toyota OEM in Toyota's own headquarters backyard. And the way that we did that was by strategically optimizing the video with the proper keywords and strategy. And yes, I think that video is even more relevant today than it was, all those years ago. Here's why. Here's some facts. First thing is that people prefer video more than anything else, more than reading, writing, texting, communicating. Video is the #1 medium for communication. Fact. Second is that the search engines, which are like gods, digital gods, Google is a leviathan. And again, the #1 algorithm point of content is video. To the fact of this, what Google says is that approximately, if you have a video that shows up on the first page of any search, if you search for something, human beings will click that video 53 times more than anything else. Not 2 times, not 5 times, not 10 times, not even 20 times, 53 times more. Why? Because people prefer video consumption more than anything else. I think the number is the average human being, the average American that I have, is they watch or consume more than 7 hours of content per day online. And here's one other crazy thing. Video on the science of communication. Dr. McQueevy said from Forrester Research that 1 minute of video is equivalent to 1.8 million written words. So if you heard of a picture's worth 1,000 words, 1 minute of video is equivalent to 1.8 million written words. So yeah, brother, video is a massive thing. And especially combined with COVID, the whole world was reprogrammed with all the Zooms, the Google Classrooms, video. So if dealers are not engaged in video, you're sleeping at the wheel. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, I just want to get your views on video, because in Europe, we have a company called See It Now, which is a great way. You send the video directly through. I'm sure you have things like that in the States as well. I don't know the names of them. But the downside of all those, they don't do any video search engine optimization. Okay, it's sending the video directly to the customer. Now, they're great because they're quick, they're easy to do. The customer gets it. Okay, we can always see when the customer has viewed the video. I mean, it's great when the customer's viewed the video 13 times. Okay, they're really interested in that car, right? But it's not helping the actual branding of the salesperson. It's not helping the branding of the dealer. So what are your views? Is it sending one of these video platforms directly to the customer, or are you still doing lots of video online, or both, Sean?
I'd say that the video is so robust, you have to have different strategies for it. So for example, what you were talking about is video communication. So video communication is very, very powerful. So for example, instead of sending a traditional email, which I think is a waste of time, okay? A traditional email on average in a CRM has only a 2 to 4% read open rate. But if you use a video email, a service that I like in the United States is called BombBomb. BombBomb is huge. We work with them in the States. That is a video email and a video text messaging platform. If you use a video email, it increases read open rates by 300%. So I think that there's a strategy and a value for video emails and video text messaging. They increase engagements, they increase conversions, and they absolutely amplify sales. But separate from that, you brought up a great point, is that has nothing to do with video content that people create and then upload. The problem is that too many people take videos off of their phone, or they take videos and they just put them on a blog. They just put them on YouTube. They just put them on their website. And if you do not code them with the right title, the right description, the right meta tags, the right keywords, the right backlinks, the right audio strategy, the right visual strategy for the facial recognition or image recognition, then it will not index. But again, most people don't understand. So there's an SEO strategy that's completely separate. That's what video search engine optimization is. So what is that for? If I want to dominate Google, see, the concept of the book Googleopoly that I wrote, that's an international bestseller, is that just like Monopoly, you can't win the game of Monopoly with just Boardwalk, which is the best property. You can't even win the game of Monopoly consistently if you've got Boardwalk and Park Place with hotels, because it's only 2 pieces of real estate. If you are a dealership and the only thing that you index on that's yours is your website, then and there's 10 listings, that means you only have a 10% shot of your own assets that you own to show up. However, what the goal is for Googleopoly, in my opinion, humble opinion, is that you want to show up as many times as possible in the top 10 rankings, because the more that you show up, the less your competitors, the less the online classifieds show up. And one of the best ways is by having assets that optimize. So video is one. So you could have your YouTube channel to optimize. You could have your YouTube video optimized. You could even use social media like Pinterest. We're working with Pinterest corporate in the United States. So Pinterest is about to be one of my guest speakers at my upcoming conference called the Internet Sales 20 Group in Philadelphia in January. You're invited, my brother.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. So again, most people don't realize that when you upload video and even images to Pinterest, you could optimize your Pinterest board, your Pinterest video, your Pinterest image to be able to index on the search engines. So think about it. If you're ABC Motors, wouldn't it be awesome that abcmotors.com shows up on Google, your videos show up on Google, your social media shows up on Google, your images show up on Google? The more that your stuff shows up, the more opportunities, the more probabilities that people find you or land on you and convert.
Cool. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn.